So hello. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Project 202 Plus Experience-Driven Leadership webinar, Leading with Gratitude and Positivity During Massive Disruption in Healthcare. I'm Jeremy Johnson, Vice President of Customer Experience for Project 202, and we're very excited to have a great panel of healthcare leaders that are going to be sharing what gratitude means during these challenging times. If this is your first webinar with us, I just wanted to make you aware, we love questions from you, the audience, so please don't be shy. If you're using Zoom for the first time, there's a Q&A button on the bottom of the screen. I think if you're on an iPad, it's on the top of the screen. So this is where you can ask and upvote questions that our moderator will be using during the panel. So feel free to add questions to the queue anytime. So to kick things off, I'm going to introduce you to our moderator, Tomas. He's out of our Project 202 Dallas office, where he helps organizations solve their biggest business challenges. With that, Tomas, take it away. Oh, you're on mute.
Here you go. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for this very kind introduction. I very much want to appreciate everyone that took the time out of their busy days to join us. And these wonderful ladies that I'm about to introduce here in a second. Thank you for those that registered but could not attend also. And as you guys know, obviously, a lot of stuff is going on in this world right now. Specifically, we are currently living in the pandemic and dealing with different difficulties associated with that at home and in the workplace. Obviously, a lot of conversation around systemic racism and things associated with that. Obviously, we got finished just with election. So more importantly, I think anything else, we genuinely hope that you get a lot of value out of this webinar. But it's really important for all of us to reflect on these important times and really think who you can help. There's humans really needing help out there, and I think what we could do is just collectively aspire some action, lighten some spirit. Help folks get connected to get some jobs and score an interview. So I want to thank you for that in advance. And that leads me to today's topic, and that is gratitude. That's something that I'm genuinely very passionate about. Our guests are genuinely very passionate about because gratitude gives you perspective. It gives you grace. And when you consider yourself, and I consider myself and our guests as well, very fortunate, we're able to look at things in the world with a very meaningful perspective and a deep level of appreciation of what's going on, and internally, more importantly, contextualize how important that is to understand all the circumstances that are surrounding us. And some quotes, I want to give you some quotes because it's always one of my favorite things. The secret of happiness is to count your blessings while others are adding up their troubles, by William Penn. Compassion is key. Empathy is essential. Jay Shetty. I was sad because I saw a man without shoes. Then I saw a man without feet. Gandhi. And with that, I'm extremely excited and very grateful that there's two wonderful ladies joining us today. There were supposed to be three, but because of the unfortunate last-minute conflict, Courtney Wakefield from Children's Health couldn't join us. But I want to welcome Rashmi Jain and Sharon Butler to the panel, and I'll let you ladies introduce yourself. Rashmi, would you mind starting, please?
Sure. I'm Rashmi Jain. I'm a CIO at Carrington International, a local healthcare company. I've been at Carrington for 22 years now, and I'm really very grateful, keeping with the theme of today, to be here and honored to be a part of this webinar.
And hello, I'm Sharon Butler. I get to lead a healthcare HR team for an organization, Magellan Health, diversified healthcare company that tends to gravitate toward the hardest challenges. This time of all of our lives is an incredibly impactful time for us as a predominantly healthcare company who also has areas of specialty health and pharmacy management, kind of meeting the needs of those experiencing the biggest challenges in healthcare. So it's a great topic, and I'm thrilled to be among all of you to talk about some things.
And thank you, ladies. Thank you to the leadership of your organizations, Carrington International and Magellan Health, Magellan RX Management. We appreciate you very much for allowing these ladies to join us. And with that, let's kick it off. My first question to you both is, how do you find internal capability within yourself to grasp everything that is currently going on, and yet still maintain a level of gratitude? How do you both go about that? If you don't mind walking us through and sharing some strategies, we'll appreciate that.
Sharon, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, let's start with the hardest, I hope. It's a really great question, and I think it's one every leader is probably grappling with right now, which is how do you find your balance, right? How do you tend to and continue to find the sources of energy so that you can also take care of and support those who require it and demand it and need it. And I think it starts in giving yourself permission to acknowledge the emotion that you're dealing with yourself first. The old cliche, right? On an airplane, if the oxygen drops, you have to put it on your own face first, right? And that sounds cliche, and it is a little bit, because it's so much more difficult than that. Because there are so many competing priorities, and there's so much data and intake and stimulus right now. So you really do have to give yourself permission to pause. But then also practice more intently presence with others, so that when you're with someone who has a need or an opportunity, that you're really focused on the conversation at hand, and you're not allowing all of the other information and channel traffic come into the conversation, so that you can truly address what needs to be addressed and respond and provide the best of yourself. But it starts first with, you have to give yourself permission to acknowledge the emotion, and then a strategy to deal with the emotion, and then look for those that can help you process. Speak to others about where you are. Look for help if you need it. It's a great time to show that strength of asking for assistance or help as you need it. Be there for folks when you can be, and be honest when you can't. I think it's that simple, and that seems really hard.
No, I love that. I love that, Sharon. You made some great points. Permission to pause, maintaining presence with others, and acknowledging how important that presence is to us and our day-to-day existence and ultimately operation. And having a strategy to deal with emotion. I feel like that's an amazing nugget here that I hope our audience will take away, and an ability to look for help as well. So thank you for that feedback. And Rashmi, I would love to hear what your thoughts on the topic.
So absolutely second everything Sharon said. Very, very well put. From my standpoint, this was a very challenging time for me when the whole thing first started with the COVID corona restrictions and the stay at home. And I'm a fixer by nature. So your first gut instinct is to fight it. It's like, oh, this is not going to last more than a week or 2 weeks, and we're going to get over it. And then when the week goes by and the 2 weeks go by and the 3 weeks, you realize that the world, in essence, is a reflection of yourself. And if you're putting out the anxiety or the ungratefulness of why are we in this, and I'm fighting it and I'm going to fix it, but one person really can't fix it, then you sort of start getting the same energy and the vibes back. And that's, speaking as a mom, as a mentor, as a manager, as a leader, all around. So I realized, thankfully, early on, that there were going to be some new normals that would need to be established in these very challenging times. So, and that, like you said, with the oxygen in the airplane philosophy, everything starts with yourself first. And so to get up in the morning and have a few centering moments, if it's 5 minutes for you, if it takes you 10 minutes, if it takes you 15 minutes, whether it's meditating, whether it's just sitting out on the back patio, having a cup of coffee. And sometimes finding those moments is very important and very difficult and challenging, as well as busy as we are. But to center yourself first thing in the morning and to set the tone for the day, and to say that I'm going to practice grace and I'm going to be grateful for what I do have with everything that's going on around me. And then I'm going to do the same for myself first, and then extend the same philosophy to everybody else around me. So if you're in a call and your video does not work, or you have a kid pop up like that CNN reporter, it's all, everybody needs to be graceful and gracious towards everybody else, and practice the same philosophy to carry us all through. And it starts at a micro level, but then it slowly propagates to a macro level where we as a society, when we lack that graciousness and patience towards each other, it becomes more and more challenging for us as a society. So I feel like if we started doing things like that at a micro level, it will automatically translate at a macro level.
No, absolutely. I love that. I love that, Rashmi. I love the fixer mentality. Like, hey, we'll get through this together as a team, not as a one person. Being able to have the energy, from our responses and self-generating those, right, to impact our family members and then our colleagues. That's tremendous. 5 to 10 minutes to yourself. I mean, how simple is that? I love walking my dogs with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things I took away from COVID is I can spend more time with my wife, right? Like we can do yoga together. So I empathize with that comment tremendously. Setting the tone, really being a leader at home and workplace, I think that's tremendously important. And the macro difference is something that I really appreciate what you just said as well. So with that, you provided some great nuggets. But that mindset, as I think about it, has to start somewhere. It doesn't just like come, naturally, like, oh, hey, like this is what it has to be. A level of commitment, a level of discipline, a level of desire to do it, understanding the value behind it, right? But like, what is it? Is it as I'm thinking, an upgrading potentially could be one source of that set of circumstances that we go through, an adversity in our lives, or perhaps a person that has a direct influence on what's going on and has been going on in our lives. So would you please share one personal example where, either a person or a circumstance has impacted you, and that led you to this gratitude mindset, and what impact that has on you now on a day-to-day basis? I would love that. That would be very personal and very deep. So we appreciate you for that in advance.
Sure. So from my standpoint, it's my two boys. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they are a constant source of my inspiration and strength, but also why I have so much gray hair. But when this first started, like I said, I'm such a fixer planner, and being a mom to 2 boys, we always had a backup plan to a backup plan, managing a full-time career with being a parent as well. And when we first started, all of us staying home, me and the boys, and it was really crazy because I'm such an A-type personality. I was like, oh, we're still going to follow our bedtime routine, and we're going to limit the tech time, and we're all going to behave and be our best, and hurrah, we're all cheerleaders. And that lasted about 2 days. And there was a lot of frustration and trying to stick to a schedule. And my aha moment was about a week into COVID, when we realized the spring break is not going to end anytime soon. And I saw the boys sleeping. And if you ever watch Sleeping Kids, it's one of the most fabulously peace-bringing aspect of our lives. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so blessed to have these 2 beautiful children that are, for me, perfect in this world. And my little moment of oasis and all the craziness. And I'm like, they're going to walk away from, whether it's 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a year. They can either walk away from this saying, wow, we had such a great time spending time with our mom, who's always been a working parent and never has had an opportunity to stay at home with us. And how blessed were we? It's a blessing in disguise that we all got to spend this time together. Or they're going to walk away thinking, oh my gosh, she screamed the whole time. And it's, as a parent, it's a very fine balance. You tend to go from one end to the other very quickly, especially with kids my age. So that was my epiphany, my aha moment. And I said, you know what? No, something's got to give. And if they get an extra hour of tech every day, or maybe 3 extra hours one day because I have back-to-back calls and I can't catch up at night, or if they, maybe have McDonald's for lunch whenever that opens up, that's fine. Everything does not need to be perfect. There does not need to be a backup plan for everything. What needs to happen is, at the end of the day, we should all look at each other and say, this was a good day. Overall, we made the best of it. We did the best we could. during the day, and we were there for each other. And I think I then transposed that to my colleagues and people I'm on calls with, and making sure that every team member, if somebody felt like, oh, I have a few people that are single and they were living by themselves, and we don't realize how hard it is to not step out and be able to run to the grocery store whenever you want, to not to be able to go and see an aging parent in a nursing facility. And these things take a toll on people. And so my aha moment was, just let go and let's do the best we can. And then if we can help somebody along the way with the same philosophy, then more power to us.
Awesome, awesome, Sharon. And I have to throw it out there, but I have to highlight that you are enrolled in master's studies at SMU in cybersecurity. Your humility will probably prevent you from sharing that with our audience, but it's so you have two kiddos, you're managing a household, you're a C-level executive at the Carrington International, right? And then you're pursuing your master's degree. I mean, you're wearing so many hats, right? So what is that internal thing that channels you to wake up every day and say, you know what, I will be the leader to my kids, to my employees. I will hang out with my colleagues. I will further educate myself. Where is that coming from?
I don't know. I guess my parents raised me like that. My mom never said, coming from the culture I come from, girls are supposed to graduate and get married and keep a house and that kind of thing. And so, but my mom still is a very strong lady, and my dad's such an inspiration. And I was just raised with the philosophy of never saying no to an opportunity, or if I wanted to go after something, that yes, it can be attained, it can be achieved, follow your dreams. That was always the way we were raised, is sky's the limit, follow your dreams. And then, little cliche of you're no less than boys, coming from, the cultural background that I come from, was an important message that my sister and I constantly got, and a little bit of crazy passion. That is just my personality, where I tend to sign up for one too many things in between. Being a parent and managing a household, managing my career. We recently got a new puppy, so it's very exciting around here, to say the least.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing. Sharon, how about you? Do you mind sharing, one person or one life event that has changed your landscape and your thought process, and how has that impacted you on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I first very much appreciate Rashmi's story, though, because it's the story of so many, where we had a perspective, where we had an ideal, and what we've done instead is repositioned, right? Reset our expectations of ourselves and each other, and created resiliency as a result of it. So I just think that story tells the story of so many people who are trying to do the same. So I just really appreciated that and wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I actually have two people, and it's a combined story. So I work for a very transformative thinker in our CHRO, and she asked this question of us as a team: what if 2020 is the best year ever? What will you have done? To just help us do the same thing, reset our perspective. What's hard, but what can we gain from it? And I realized that it takes us into a place of gratitude in the people who have informed us and who have affected us. And what is it that we take from all of that? So I have a friend who was a colleague years ago, and I recently purchased a book he wrote. And he's a gentleman living with ALS. And he wrote a book, which is a story to his children about things that they'll encounter in their future. So it's his way of having control over circumstances that are compounded by COVID on top of what it is he deals with, to just communicate. And it's his way of ensuring that he can use present day to be present in their future. And it was profoundly impactful to me to read through some of the stories and remember some of the events, but to now see them through his eyes and understand that we walk among many individuals who are carrying a lot and striving to still be able to control what they can control and to offer up what it is they have to offer up at any given moment or any given day. And it's taught me that we all have things in our backpack, right? We're all carrying things. Some of them are really good things. For this gentleman, his name is Patrick McKenna. It's a ripple effect. Like his life resonates through mine, like bouncing off of all kinds of things, because he just taught me so much in how he dealt with the life challenges he had when I knew him and the life challenges he has today. So I look for those moments when I can learn from any given person at any time to remind me that we all have a purpose. We all have an opportunity to affect favorably others in our lives, and to just pause and not react, but respond and care. And it kind of brought back those things we said earlier: presence. Authenticity is an incredibly important part of our being right now. And so when you talked about gratitude, it occurred to me that it's something more than thankfulness, right? It's a true understanding that through this moment, with whoever it is and whatever it is, we have an opportunity to be transformed by it and to turn this year into our best year ever, whatever that is. And it's intimidating, but it also is that area that can give you energy. And it's what's been giving me energy to think about the profound challenges of individuals around us and what they do with it. So to be present today, but to create something that creates presence in someone's future, when he knows what he has today is a deadline, right? He has a known deadline, and he turned it into something really powerful, but not just for his children, but for all of us who choose to read it. So I wanted to share that story because I just thought it was remarkably relevant to where we are today.
No, 100%. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sharon. I love what you said about, and thank you for mentioning that. That's tremendously personal. And, having a purpose, thinking of 2020 as an opportunity, not something that is like a downside. And everybody, all you see around us is this, well, on average, set of complaints, whether we consume it from TV or social media. There's folks that look for a reason, right, to perhaps express their frustration, and rightfully so, because there's increasing level of anxiety being settled. People are working from home. They have to help their kids with e-schooling, e-learning. I have a baby on the way, a baby girl, so I'm getting ready for that. We had a puppy as well, our COVID. So we have two COVID babies. So I empathize completely with you both, and I love what you said. And something I want to throw in is my parents grew up under communism in Poland, right? So it's, and if I talk to them about COVID, it's like, what's COVID, right? Like it's just having this level of understanding that, you know what, this is it's not as big of a gorilla as we believe it is. And let's collectively channel a level of energy and help each other to go through this together. Because I love, there's a saying from a good friend of mine, that there's more things that unite us than divide us, and collectively we can do so much more, right? And I want to stop my questions, because my questions are not as good as the audience's questions. We have some great engagement so far. I want to ask Scott, thank you so much for your question. How do you evangelize gratitude and positivity within your two respective organizations? And I'll let Sharon go first this time.
It's a great question, and I love the word evangelize, because it's true, right? It's truly what needs to occur. I think it starts with ensuring that leadership collectively finds it important, and then cohesively identifies different ways in which we can move forward, so that everyone experiences an opportunity to be engaged, to be connected, to belong, right? To feel a sense of belonging. One of the things that we've done is to actually launch like a toolkit to leaders that just helps them reset and take in a new approach. So we don't always have to be the inventor of great things, as long as we leverage great things. So Simon Sinek has a really great model out right now about a meeting, right? A touch point, a huddle, where it's actually not about work. It's about you and how are you today? and who has helped affect your day. Let's thank them. And we've been socializing that, and we've been asking folks to try it, and it's uncomfortable, especially because we're very practical, right? We have a lot of work to do, and we're tactical and results oriented and project oriented and get things done oriented. So setting aside an extra meeting to just say, how are you? And by the way, thank you for coming to that meeting and having that wonderful thought. And how's your family? And what's the new thing you have in your background? And what's the, what does the yoga look like for your wife, Tomas? So it's just something we're trying, and we're willing to be clumsy with it, and it's powerful because of that. And we're not enforcing it, we're not requiring it, but we've socialized it and said, give it a shot. Let's try it, and let's talk about how it's working, and let's just keep going. So that's one example.
Perfect, perfect. And how about you, Rashmi? What do you and what do you guys do, at Carrington, to evangelize this mindset of gratitude?
Absolutely. And I completely agree with Sharon that it's a top-down approach here, starting with the leadership. So I'm very blessed to work for a company like Carrington, where our people have always been our strength. That is, we're a show up at work every day type of a company, or we were until recently. And we take great pride and form great friendships amongst ourselves. And that the Carrington culture has always been very, very strong. So one of the challenges we've had in these very trying times is to maintain that now virtually. Because I can't stop by a colleague's desk and say, oh, how's you took off for a sick child the other day, how's everything going? Without violating HIPAA, HR, of course. But now we are virtual. So our CEO, Barbara Fasola, is very particular about maintaining that continuity, that connection. She does regular memos personally from herself that she works with our marketing communication teams on, informing everybody. We were one of the first companies in the Metroplex that actually shut down and sent everybody home to work from home remote before it was even mandated in the state of Texas. So over a matter of 3 days, we had 500 plus employees that were all on site, working all remotely. And that was about a good 2 weeks before Texas mandated the work from home. And part of the strategy was to ensure that the connectivity stays. So we have regular meetings. In some of our meetings, we require video, and like I said, challenge yourself and go beyond the comfortable. And yeah, you may not have the perfect background, and it doesn't matter, because we want to see your face. We want to see how you're doing. We want to make eye contact, even if it's virtual. We want to stay connected. Some companies will bury their heads in the sand and kind of do their own thing, hoping in the background everything is working like it's supposed to. We're not like that. We want to challenge the status quo. We want to ask the right questions. We want to be proactive. And before our employees start wondering, hey, when are we coming back? We want to message it appropriately and accordingly, and make sure that they understand that we are in lockstep with them, that they know what the leadership is thinking and strategizing in these times. And then we do fun things like for Halloween. Halloween is huge at Carrington, and we all basically are required to dress up, and people take great pride, and entire departments get transformed. So this year was very challenging for all of us to not be there in person for Halloween. So what we did was we did 2 Zoom calls, and most of the leadership joined for both the calls, where employees could, even if you showed your face for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, even if you showed your puppy in a tutu, it didn't matter. Be there and let's talk about it, and let's enjoy it as much as we can remotely. So we've tried to keep that cultural aspect of Carrington, which is such a soul of our company, going even in these trying times.
I love that. I love that. No, it's all about the collective heartbeat, right? As not just as one, but as a unity, as a company. And I love that about Project 202. We have a lot of internal initiatives similar to what you've described. Another question that I want to bring up from Guy. Thank you so much for your question. I personally consider you both tremendous leaders, and I can only imagine how all these difficult circumstances have challenged you as a leader, and all your employees are all of a sudden looking up to you like it's like never before, probably, right? So Guy is asking, have you found the pandemic as a change to your approach of dichotomy? I think that's the right pronunciation, forgive me, ESL, English as a second language, of surrender and control, and how do you believe that has improved your leadership skills? So great question, and I would love, Rashmi, if you don't mind answering first.
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you. Definitely challenge leadership style. Like I said, we are a show at work, and if there's a challenge, then we huddle, we create war rooms, and so all of that had to be made virtual. And I'm a big proponent of servant leadership. I feel like my team makes me look. I'm not a great leader all on my own. I have some amazing, amazing people that work with me that make me look really good, and we wanted to continue that same theme and philosophy virtually or in these challenging times. So I make it a point, even if when we were in the office, I may skip a meeting, that's a department meeting, because I will get my updates later. I make special consideration now to not. So I prioritize, as much as I prioritize our client calls and other sessions, I prioritize my interdepartment meetings. So I'm more involved, and maybe there were other meetings that I was not involved in to begin with when we were on site that I've not sort of instituted myself to be a part of, just so I can get to hear what everybody's working on, which is a huge change in philosophy for us. When communication channels need to be kept open, and they need to know that I was always the one for office pop-ups. I never used to say, I always say my door is always open. If don't consider any issue minor. If you think you need to talk about something, stop on by. And we've tried to maintain that same philosophy via Microsoft Teams or Microsoft, your Messenger, to make sure that people have an avenue and an ease to reach out to you, and you're accessible just in a different manner now.
Absolutely. No, thank you. How about you, Sharon? I know, you lead up a great team. So, I'm curious how you believe your leadership skills have evolved and what you're doing to cultivate that spirit.
I would say this has been a very humbling year, and not just COVID related, right? There's polarization for so many reasons about our human identities, and so ensuring that you're having the right conversations at the right time when there are so many things that pull you in so many directions has really been the hardest part. Um, I've always felt that my role was to ensure the success of others, um, but that was from a work perspective, and this got so much more personal, right? Everything that folks were dealing with, that we're all dealing with, right? All of us dealing with in our own identities, in our communities, in our healthcare, in reacting to employees who don't feel well or have family members who are critically ill, to Black Lives Matter, to polarized political perspectives. It's been a year where the priorities, and I think Rashmi talked about it earlier, right? Resetting. When she described her family, had a set of expectations, and resetting and saying, there's actually nothing more important right now in this day than the conversation we need to have, because you need something. And then we'll figure out how it is we turn what we need to solve into a value add for the company we serve. And to celebrate the folks that were really rallying at a time of need. So, we have an amazing marketing team. We have an amazing team across our organization, really pulled together and helped us remind everyone that we were made for this. We were made to serve people when they don't feel well. And that was helpful, I think, to also then celebrate the successes that our employees were having in serving the members that we're here to serve. And that purpose can give you kind of a beacon to move toward, right? It gives you that guiding light to move past the challenge you have toward the things that are your purpose for being at work together. And we celebrate those stories. We have great stories of people who have gone above and beyond to make sure someone received their medication delivery, or that someone answered a call when someone was feeling desperate and prevented suicide. So we're made for this. So the teams rose to the occasion, and then we have to deal with things like burnout, because how do you stop? Because it hasn't stopped. So I think to be humbly honest, I don't know that I've grown all that much, but I've watched all of the team members around me grow exponentially, and I couldn't be more proud to be among them and more humbled by the hard work that we have to do. So I don't know that I'm changed as much as I think the people around me are.
I think your level of humility just prevents you from admitting it. But I think what I'm hearing is you both evolved tremendously as a person, as a professional, as a leader in your respective organizations. And I think that's very clear. And I love, you know, one of my good friends would say the only constant is change. And I feel like if we just embrace that, right, embrace that mentality and think that, hey, if there is change, we will evolve and it will help our employees and we'll be better leaders. That's really all that matters. So I appreciate you. And with that, kind of a question along those lines, you know, evolving, and Lily asked a question. Thank you, Lily. The personal setting, you know, with the pandemic has embedded really itself in corporate environment, right? We're talking about having kids, COVID babies, COVID puppies. So, you know, we see other people's homes, spouses interrupting, all kinds of things going on, which I think I love it because it's just more authentic and real. And I love it personally. Do you think is there a value to keep that personal connection going, and why? And I will start with Sharon.
Actually, I love this question because we did actually move through a pretty major transformation, realizing that some of what we believed, right, was worthy of challenge. So an example is the predisposition that we work better as a team when we're all sitting in the same building. I mean, it's an attitude, and attitude sometimes has a negative connotation, but it's a perspective that that's true, and leaders had to quickly reevaluate. Right, we were able to move 90% of our associates to work from home in 4 days, and then we have to address that they're home, and we have all these great events occurring, right? Children showing up in videos, and people acknowledging that their dog protects them and someone's at the door, right? Like all those things are happening live and in our conversations, that we realize that this is actually sustainable. People are doing their best work. And that's a generalization that we have to be really careful about because it's not for everyone. But for those that are really, really thriving in this environment where they get to be more integrated in their life and the balance of their life because they can be more responsive to the things that pull them in different directions, they can be home and get great work done and be, you know, there when children get off the bus if they ever get back on one. Like we've learned that there's a lot to be said about people being exactly where they need to be and empowering them to be highly successful in their entire life, work life and personal life, one person. And we've embraced that really quickly. So it was a huge transformation. I applaud all of our leaders that remained open-minded through the evaluation. We surveyed our employees, we surveyed managers, we looked at results, and confirmed that this is an existence that we will maintain, and we'll have to adjust for where it's not ideal. But it has kept us at the top of our performance. It has kept employees fully engaged. It isn't always rosy and it isn't always perfect because there are parents trying to do homework, and there are lots of things that are pulling them that they didn't experience when they were in an office because they could turn that off per se, and it's not off anymore, it's on all the time. So they have a different need, but we've been willing to think about what's the difference, right? What we managed when we were all together is different than what we manage when we're sitting in different places, and they're equally hard, but that's why we're leaders, right? To do the hard things, to help people stay engaged and feel belonged, that's not a word, feel belonging to the rest of their team and feel really connected to their work and to be able to celebrate their successes. I mean, video conferencing has come a long way, right? The technology that enables us to be able to do this is extremely important to recognize and acknowledge. We couldn't have done this 15 years ago, but we do have the technology today, and it does help us change our attitude and our perspective. And it will, I believe, be a sustaining, transformative event for us, and I think for most organizations.
Thank you, Sharon. How about you, Rashmi?
So similar to what Sharon responded, the human factor or the human aspect. When we're at work, we are so busy. Carrington has multiple companies and we're working on several client-related projects, our own projects. We have a telehealth company, which was such a good time that we launched that, but that all of that translated into a lot of work, especially for IT. And it's really easy to consider somebody to be a resource when you're working on a project and there's a deadline and 20 things need to be done. There's an important release tonight. And our resources in IT work practically 24/7. And when there's so much going on, it's very easy to simply ignore the human aspect of somebody's life and what they do when they leave their jobs and go home, right? And that kind of sort of is such a wonderful shift and such a blessing in disguise with everybody working from home, is that that's not such an escape thing anymore, right? Now when I know somebody's doing a release in the middle of the night, and they're logged in, they might have a puppy sleeping at their feet, or even during the day, they might have a spouse who's saying, oh, lunch is ready whenever you're done. And you get this little tidbits and glimpses into people's life. And I feel like it's such a wonderful feeling to be connected to our colleagues at a personal level and to appreciate what they bring to the table so much more for the people they are and these Herculean tasks that they're doing of managing kids that are working, that are studying from home, and spouses that are also working, and then deliveries that are coming and the doorbell's ringing, and then you're on this call answering RFI questions for a very important client, right? So I've really enjoyed that aspect, and I feel more connected to my colleagues now than I did when we were actually in a war room situation at work. So blessing in disguise for sure.
100%. No, I genuinely would agree. There's nothing better than getting to know your colleagues on a personal level, I feel like. And, I've always said to myself, I'm spending more time with my colleagues in the office than I would ever spend with my family. So I think we would be doing this service to our colleagues and our firm where we work if we were not to dedicate our time to really get to know them, build relationships with them, because then we are so much more effective internally for the betterment of our clients. So I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. Glenn has a question. If you guys can imagine we're moving fast forward 1 year, how much of what you do today to promote this mindset of gratitude and your internal spirit do you think will survive or take on a different version in a physical setting when everything is over with? So I will start with Rashmi this time.
Oh my goodness, what a profound question. And of course we will survive. I have no doubt about that. The human spirit is all enduring. And if we look back in history and in time, people have been through a lot more than what we're going through today, not to minimize or pour water over, every individual suffering and pain is profound. And as an individual deals with it, it's important to not minimize that. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form doing that. But Tomas, you spoke about your background and your parents being raised in communist Poland, right? And then, so similarly, my grandparents, when I'm of Indian origin, but they were in Pakistan. And when the British left, they divided the subcontinent of India into two countries, primarily three countries, but two countries, Pakistan and India. And there was a huge migration shift based on religion from one country to the other. And my grandparents basically left, literally, like they say, with the shirt on their backs, with all these kids in tow, with lives that were established. So my dad was actually first generation Indian, the youngest kid in his family, and so is my mom. But all of his older siblings were born in Pakistan. So I really get inspiration from that when I look at surviving today's day and time, and I feel blessed and grateful for everything that we do have. And the fact that, I'm not going to let a virus kind of overrule us. And I have such faith in science to come up with a solution, and especially for the people that are high risk and need it. So absolutely no doubt that the human spirit will endure and survive. But the kind of tone we set for that survival 2 years from now is really depending on how we act today. And I feel like if we are more gracious, more patient, and focus on perseverance and being grateful, that we will then carry that same attitude through with us post-COVID, when we're all together in person and, kind of overlook people's differences. And I feel like just having patience and knowing that we can agree to disagree in a civil manner. And just because our political views don't align doesn't mean I don't want to be your friend anymore, right? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I think that the stresses of being home, the stresses of the uncertainty, the stresses of being faced by a disease that is so lethal at times for certain people has brought out, in some cases, a little bit of the worst in society. But I still feel that the overall good in people, they're equally and outnumbering examples of people practicing gratefulness and patience and graciousness. And I feel like that's what's going to carry us through it.
100%. No, I love that. And I love the two key characteristics I think that we can all share and lead with, and that's empathy and being compassionate as well. I think that could help too. And Sharon, I would love to hear from you as well. How do you believe the situation will change about 1 year from now?
Well, I'm not sure it can be said much better than Rashmi just kind of summarized all of it. I completely agree in the way that she's embraced what the future holds. I do think that, we're not going back to something. We're going forward with new information and a new understanding of ourselves in our society and in our families. I think what's interesting is if we think about it, COVID is the challenge that actually we all share. So the one thing that we all have in common right now is that we are all addressing this in our individual lives. How we address it is what's different. How it's affecting our lives is what's different. But I think we can look to this as an opportunity to really understand ourselves and each other and be a different community, a different society in the future. I think a year might be too soon to really understand how much it will have transformed us. But I do think it is the problem that will actually bring us together, right? As a common challenge across the world that was to be solved. We
No,
lived with it, through it, and suffered the pains of it together.
absolutely. I'm a big believer in any source of adversity that we can face, whether it's as humanity or individually, as a family, as colleagues, as teams. I feel like we all will be that much stronger, right, as a result. I mentioned that earlier, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's a tremendous impact on mental health as a result of what's going on amongst amongst the humanity because of the issues that we mentioned. So how do you believe, how much of an impact do you believe all those circumstances will have on mental health? And what can people do better to perhaps equip themselves in some tools and resources to be heard? I feel like a lot of folks just want to be heard when they face hardship. So what do you believe would be kind of a, I don't want to say a secret sauce, but a good point, good strategy facing what we're currently facing? Rashmi?
So really, honestly, from a personal level and standpoint, I feel we're very close to it because Carrington's telehealth company Dial Care has a mental wellness program as well. And we've certainly seen an uptick in the usage. So in our little way in this huge world, we feel like we're making a difference in providing mental health counseling services to specifically to students, but then also to adults in a telehealth type scenario where people are unable to actually physically go. So having access, knowing that help is available, looking at the tools that your employer offers, and seeing how best to virtually utilize them if you're not comfortable going into a practitioner's office. There's many different alternatives and options there. I think the first step from a person who requires help is to not hesitate to reach out. And you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to extend that helping hand and listen to you and hear you out. And then as on the other side of things, if you feel that anybody in your periphery, whether it's at home, in your personal circle, at your work circle, or your professional network, could just use a simple drop-in hello. Sometimes that's all it takes, is looking at your list of LinkedIn contacts and saying, oh, you know what, I haven't communicated with this person in 6 months. I wonder how they're doing. And all it takes is a quick note to say, hey, I hope you're doing well in these crazy times, and I'm here in case you need anything. So not hesitating to reach out either way, I think is great. And then also looking at utilizing the resources that your employer has available. They're available out there in the world with your health plan, so to speak, in order to get that help. And sometimes it makes all the difference to take that first step. You realize that's all that needed to be done. So I'm a big proponent of that, and looking at and meditation as well. I feel like meditation is not a quick fix. I was always the type of person that felt like, how do you even meditate? I mean, like, really, I mean, how do you shut your brain down to then focus on just nothing but internally? My brain doesn't shut off, if you can't tell already. But I learned a very good lesson from somebody who's really good at meditating, a friend of mine. And she said, it's not about blocking out other thoughts. It's about acknowledging the other thoughts that interrupt your meditation, and kind of setting them aside, saying, okay, I get it, and then still continuing to meditate. So I feel like those tools personally work very well for me. And then the 10 minutes a day personal time off to kind of step back and do whatever it takes to center. If it's just watching your kids play basketball, it could be going to a walk with your dog and your wife, whatever it takes just to ground yourself and center yourself. 10 minutes a day. And by no means, I don't mean to preach at all, because I know that somebody who struggles with these issues, it's easier said than done. But I really encourage everybody to look at the resources that they do have available, and reach out and not hesitate to ask for help.
For sure, for sure. And Sharon, you know, Magellan is very well known of your expertise in mental health. So I would love to, hear your take on that as well.
Well, the hope that I have as a member of Magellan is that this becomes the event that destigmatizes mental health needs and behavioral health needs, because it will probably affect every household in one way or another, where some type of support or guidance is needed. We have an incredibly skillful and thought leadership in the area of anticipating exactly how this will impact society and care needs of the future. What I would say is look to organizations like these two to inform based on what we anticipate will be the outcome of all of this. Find the strength to ask for help. Don't assume it will go away. Understand it, that you're not alone, and that there are those that can help you. If you are not currently employed, there are community services that can help identify service providers. If you are employed, most employers, as Rashmi said, has a portfolio of offerings in their EAP or behavioral and mental wellness offerings. This is a really important time to be honest with yourself and seek out and get the support that you need. This has gone on a long time, and there's still more time ahead. And we're all thrown off. We're all thrown off by it at one time or another, and we all need to reach out and talk with folks. Speak to people about your emotion. Understand it in the perspective of what's going on within your life and around you, and seek professional help as you need it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I remember being in college, and I had to use help myself. We had a tremendous resource in a sports psychologist, and without her, I'm not sure how I would be able to overcome some of the difficulties that I faced at the time. And to your point, I feel like there's a tremendous power behind these professionals and organizations just like yours providing such expertise. You can do it with a sense of confidentiality. There's resources available. So I think we all ought to, capitalize on those opportunities because they are more available to us than ever before, I think, right? So we have about 5 minutes left. So I'm curious if there's any more questions that the audience would be interesting to answer. We may have time for one more, but I want to, before that happens, I genuinely believe that a lot of what has to deal with gratitude and our positive mindset and how we operate on a daily basis has to do with our level of consumption of media, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, podcasts, social media specifically, how much time we dedicate, to those mobile devices. So what is your advice? This is very personal and very immediately transferable, I feel like, to anything that we do. But what is your advice to consumption of social media outlets and media, different TV stations? How could we deal with this and adversity? You know, how do you choose what you watch, what you listen to? People have to make these decisions. So what do you do personally that can help, you know, another person or a colleague?
It's a really good
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead,
willing
Sharon. Go
to
ahead.
jump in because I've actually been thinking about this a lot. And my observation is that we sometimes allow our opinions to be delegated or represented in a surrogacy. And it's a really important time to collect data and collect information and make informed decisions and use our own critical thinking, and to not borrow another opinion and to not give someone else the power of informing my opinion.
Exactly.
But to collect all the information and make good, well-informed decisions and feel really confident in yourself, in your ability to have your own opinion about what's going on around you. Look for facts, second guess resources, every one of them. That's what I would say.
I love that. I love that. What about you, Rashmi? If
I
you
mean, that was
yeah.
spot on, Sharon. I strongly agree with that. I would say all the social media outlets, use them as tools. They're not there to be the end all and beginning all of, you know, how you define and how you think, and just use that as another means of input of information. So you have your newspapers and you have your Facebook and your Instagram and your LinkedIn. So these are all input and data points, and analytics is not bad by itself. And there's a lot of discussion about analytics and how it's used by different social media outlets to kind of change our thinking. But that only happens if we allow it to happen. If we don't check our brains out of the door and believe everything we read, then we still maintain the ultimate power. If we don't click on every ad that's offered to us, then, you know, then we are still in control. So be in control of how these tools play a role in your life. And you know, that's pretty much all I have to add.
I cannot agree more. I feel like we can be given so much opinions and advice from other people, and we don't take that for granted. And but there is a lot of information thrown at us, and I feel like being able to understand what's coming at us, what type of information we are consuming, and being informed and educated, and then being able to provide your own opinion and a level of expertise as a result is critical. So I love what you guys said, and we have 1 minute left. And before I transition to Jeremy, I want to be respectful to your time and our audience's time. I just want to very, very much thank you for your participation today. This was an awesome session. Thank you to Carrington International and Magellan Health, Magellan RX Management for your kindness and allowing these wonderful ladies to join us. Hope you guys were able to get one nugget out of this. That's what all we care about. So without further ado, thank you again, ladies, for your time, and I'll give it to Jeremy.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Tomas. And thank you everyone for joining today. And thanks for all the great questions. If you enjoyed this one, we'll be having more soon. We'll also be posting these online. And as always, we're really excited to hear any feedback that you may have. So look for those notifications as well. And just feel free to keep up with us at experiencedriven.com. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.